Good evening, Free Enterprise, and welcome to the 6th round of Swiss matches in the Lali-Ho League Tournament. Our two runners tonight, Gambit and Sorbius, are both sporting 3-2 records, so the stakes of this race are very clear. Win and you advance to the brackets. Lose and your tournament ends here. Tie, and you'll give our tourney admin team a headache, so we won't dwell too much on that. With Harumph on Restream and Leggy Starstream on tracking, I'm Twisted Flax, and I'm joining the booth tonight with Commander Leonhardt. Tell me, what are you looking forward to in this race?
I'm looking forward to our runners reciting this limerick. Harumph once had Restream. His first, as part of the team. Racers got sour after the third hour. Harumph is now living the dream.
I don't know about Harumph, but I don't know if I want to see our runner suffer through a 3-hour seed tonight.
No, I don't see a lot of potential for waves in the objectives, but still, let's not have 3 hours.
Yeah, I see we have both Ogo, Pogo, and Kinatsos are required 2 bosses tonight, alongside a traditional 3 objectives of completing Cave Magnus, forging the sword, and trading the Pinktail. So when you're faced with 2 boss hunts in your objectives, does that change your routing at all?
It does. I worry a little less about locations that give me characters, and places that have a lot of bosses become more valuable, a little more likely to run to ordeals early, for instance, and I feel a little differently about Dwarf Castle. That's double up.
Yeah, absolutely. I always want to make sure I check those spots on the overworld that you don't normally check, the waterfall and the mist cave, pretty early, just to make sure that they aren't just hiding there and be easily chalked off.
Yeah, and having 2 boss objectives in my mind basically means there are 3 boss hunts, because I lump D-Mist in with that regardless of what the objectives say.
No, that's absolutely accurate. I see we're also starting with Rosa tonight, a very solid starting character in my opinion.
100% agree. Rosa has good HP growth and MP growth, and can do some pretty good physical damage early on with the right gear until she gets up and running as a healer. All around a great character to build the party around.
Absolutely. I'm always hoping to find an early heroine robe, and I can make her my primary DPS component of any party.
Yeah, an early heroine robe, you can do some silly things, especially if you've got a little extra knowledge about how the game works. You like using a heroine robe character as an anchor, but you don't want to put Rosa in the middle because it messes with her aim. So as long as your party isn't full, you can put her in slot 2 and leave the first slot empty. Her aim won't be ruined, but she still serves as an anchor. See if our runners get a chance to show off that tech.
See what our runners are going to be showing off in terms of an extra character in Tella. We've got a Mylon of Sudden Domination giving us a hook. So that's an interesting potential route to go down if you wanted to get the 3rd character and maybe do a bit of looting down in Cave Eblin, where the T Wildish flag rewards looking at areas that are both hidden behind key items, as well as having a trap chest in them. That's definitely a possibility that our runners could do early.
Yeah, that could be a great start. Also, with the character there being a gated check, it could be Edge or Fu, which any character would be a benefit when you're only starting with 2 and you don't have free characters, but something like Edge or Fu could really help our runners take off.
Of course, we can also take a quick look at the item shop down there. We're guaranteed 2 tier 5 items in there. So if you find maybe a coffin or hourglass, that could make a potential free boss even freer on the overworld.
And Gambit looks like he's going to do just that. He's immediately launching the hook, taking a quick moment while he's in the area to peek the waterfall boss, finds the Calbrenadals, and is uninterested.
I think we also saw Odin in the Baron Inn there. I believe it was Edward on Sorbius' side.
Yeah, I love me a Spoonward, definitely. And I even love me some Eddie Strats, although it's rare for a seed on this flag set to be jetty enough to recommend it. Odin, fine there. Fine there. It's a spot with low HP. You don't have to worry about some of the nonsense you can do in rougher spots.
By the time you're strong enough to take on that spot, he'll probably be fast enough to swing once, and then you can take him out. So as long as you can survive that one swing, you can go straight on to the second boss. Looks like both our runners are going to be taking that hovercraft over to Cave Evelyn, doing a quick peek down there.
Yeah, makes all kinds of sense for the reasons you mentioned. Not at all surprised to see this happening.
Well, a golden apple and a crystal ring in your first two chests there. That's some really nice loot, if only just to sell.
Yeah, and the samurai arrow is right behind it, no slouch. Hey, Sorbius's position would probably stop looting and just carry straight on to the save point and maybe work my way backwards from there. We'll see how he wants to play.
Well, I think he wants to stock up on those hourglasses and those sirens that happen to be in this gated shop. Really nice shop there.
And definitely, those two guaranteed tier 5 items that you mentioned, hourglass and siren, are two of them, and ones that I know I'm looking for on S standard when I finally get to a gated shop.
And yes, not wanting to jeopardize the progress that he's already made in this cave, Sorbius is going straight to check the third character. I would imagine dropping a save after that and continuing to loot this place out. A good side benefit of getting that Stella as our starting character is that you have access to the exit spell immediately.
Not that gated character.
I can't think of many ways to get a faster foo on this flag set.
Yeah, the only way I've got for you is Sand Ruby, and that's it. This is a pretty quick start.
Of course, with the challenge foo flag on, or the lack of the vanilla flu, if you want to call it that as well. Foo's only going to know, I believe, 6 spells at the start of the game. We'll get 3 per boss fight you take on. So at this point, he probably doesn't have great spells, but take a few boss fights. He's going to get access to those level 2, level 3 spells, maybe even nuke as well pretty early on. He's going to blitz through this early game before you know it.
And for clearing out the overworld, any level 2 elemental spell gets the job done. We all kind of know that if we have a Palom that we start with, the moment he goes through a fight and gets his level 2 set up, he's good to go for the overworld. Same applies to Fu. He's got a lot more MP.
That's absolutely right. 190 MP to start with is more than enough to get going.
Gambit pushes the loot a little bit more than Sorbius and finds the trap chest, but now he's free to loot the entirety of the cave.
The one thing I don't think either of our runners have looked at is the starting gear on this Rosa. I don't know if, okay, there it is on Sorbius' side. She is starting with an archer or bow, because it isn't entirely possible on the C Neki flag. She starts with a staff instead, and I don't know if we had seen a bow yet.
And Gambit's pulled that heroine robe we were talking about. I don't know if Sorbius looted enough to find that, but Gambit also finds a samurai bow. That Rosa is going to be a mighty fine contributor.
Absolutely, until we can get Fu online with another strong black magic spell, she's going to put out more than enough damage. How about a second Tella up here on Mount Hobbs?
It's a second Tella.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's basically just 340 hit points for a boss to fight, to take down. That's the major benefit of having a second Tella at this point.
Yeah, one Tella is great, even with Fu around. Fu's still going to need a few bosses to learn those wonderful utility spells that Tella has, especially when the party's not full yet. But second is, and our tracker, like a star screen pointing out that Sorbius did get the heroine robe, but did not get the samurai.
seeing a little deviation here as we see Gambit going up Mount Ordeals. Considering that we do have Itella, we want to unlock all the spells, and that we want to get as many spells as possible onto Fu early on. And given the power that Rosa has as well, this is a very smart move in my opinion.
Yeah, and especially knowing now that the characters tell them. I mean, you come here maybe and find someone a little more exciting, and also you can peek it because it is an objective. But as we mentioned earlier, 3 bosses here at Ordeals. This looks like good news both for the potential to find objectives and for powering up Fu. Though Sorbius is rewarded with a power shirt on that West Hubs.
That is potentially a very nice piece of equipment. No one here quite is going to need it right this moment, but I mean, any other melee character is going to love that piece of equipment.
And Lady ID in chat pointing out that there was also a bandana. If we can find maybe that Edge or a Yang, or honestly any melee warrior, I'd be quite happy to have that as a welcoming gift when they join the party.
It's great to see our armor options filling out. One of the issues, obviously, with the Sineki flag is we start with literally 0 armor, which can cause some issues, especially if you find some really punchy bosses somewhere. But we're finding some very good options to use early on in the seed.
The Edge in particular suffers from that. We're somewhat used to him showing up with twin short swords and a bandana and a black belt, so having that in hand for him to slap on, like getting a normal Edge.
So we've got Bag of Sisters here in the first spot of Ordeals. Really want to see a physical damage boss here because the physical attack here is really low. Magic here is actually kind of high for the location where it is in the overworld, so could cause a couple issues. On the other hand, Mylon Z down here in Avalon, no problems whatsoever. We get a rat tail to go with that opening hook.
Yeah, and I expect Sorbius will turn that in real quick before moving anywhere else.
For what it's worth, I suppose that means we also have that vanilla Mylon in the first spot, the Bygin spot in Bear, if you remember correctly.
Yeah, that'd be Mylon and friends then. And hello, Turtle. This is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really worried to see about Kinatsu on those high HP spots where the wave can really use some damage. But especially because this is a required Kinatsu, it's our 5th objective, I'm sure both our runners would be loving to see it here. Also, speaking of loving to see a boss here, how about a D-Mist at the full defense?
Yeah, there's some potential to speed things up here. Oh, that bow doing work for Gambit, that bow and that robe and those arrows.
Seriously, I can't think of many other things aside from the Artemis arrows, the Artemis bow that you would rather have Rosa wearing right now.
That is about it. If our runners can find a pink tail, they can get an Artemis bow from there.
That's right, with the max tier 6 flag on, the only place we're ever going to find really, really high gear like that Artemis bow is in either trap chests or as rewards from quests.
Yep, and that pink tail turn-in is guaranteed to be a tier 7 item, not an adamant armor. Turn the adamants off, as we usually do for a tournament, but there are 8 other things it could be, and the Artie bow is on that list.
Gambit is through the Kainatsu, 1 objective done. Meanwhile, Sorbius earns that Sand Ruby for getting through the Fabul fight. We're getting a very full party very quickly this seed.
Yeah, the items that hide characters from us are flowing out pretty quickly. That's better than the Legend Sword that's normally here.
Does that count as French vanilla?
Sure. Vanilla swirl, perhaps.
I'll buy that. One quick Pale Dim fight later, and we'll have Ordeals done on Gambit's side. Sorbius, I'm sure, is going to go ahead and see who that character sleeping in the Kaito bed is right now.
roll, please. Oh, it's a Dragoon. There's our melee fighter that we were asking about.
Absolutely. Now, Kane has a lot of good options for equipping in this flag set. I don't know if we've seen any of them yet, but I mean, an Orgor Axe or a Poison Axe or any of the good spears is only a couple of treasure chests away, I feel.
Yeah, they're even just in that tier 4, tier 5 range, which on Wildish isn't that hard to come by. There are a lot of the things you just mentioned there would be great for them.
Sorbius is opting not even to dance with the Kaipo in boss here, just immediately exits out. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, and I suspect that... Oh wait, Demist. I forgot Demist. Been long enough. Oh, hey then.
that is interesting. You obviously have another character check up there. If you're feeling really, really spicy, you can even, face check a few of those bosses up there, see if they're in certain, if you find a good free boss up there, it could be a big boost for you.
I mean, we have the sort of party composition and inventory that would tempt me with that kind of a play. The hourglasses are for sale in Eblin, along with the sirens, wasn't it?
Yes.
So if you wanted, you could do an early grind with old dragons.
Absolutely.
Fu having weak, but if you've been up ordeals, Tella has it. So you can be set up for that then. And if you wanted a quick start and then a moon dive, Rose is well equipped. It would be cheeky, but it wouldn't be completely out of left field.
No, definitely not. It's definitely one of those plays you might consider if you feel like your opponent in a one-on-one situation is maybe stronger than you, and you feel like you maybe have to, play with a little more variance than you normally would. It's definitely an option on the table. Very interested to see if either of our runners choose to take it.
And the previous tournament, this setup would be screaming, do D machine, set your grind up, and then clear out the seed. But you want to explain why our runners are not likely to take that option?
Well, we've added a new flag into the mix, and I do have to personally apologize. I feel partially responsible for it. The devs, the devs have taken away our easy exit from the Giant of Babel, meaning that if you go into the Giant, you have to fight those two really, really nasty boss spots at the end of the Giant. On the other hand, you do get a new character from there, so if you're in a character hunt, I think it might still be a possible play. But in a seed like this, where you have no more characters, you have all the characters you would want in the party right now, no character checks to be made in terms of objectives, it's a little more questionable, takes some more time, and you always run the risk, if you're not properly anchored, of finding a really nasty boss spot there that you just can't get through like a wyvern.
Yeah, and if that happens, then all that time you spent is down the drain, and you can't afford that kind of time loss. It's a very big gamble in circumstances. And as for your responsibility, you helped the community get past the can't run aspect last tournament.
Right. I figured the ability to predict what the random encounters you would get as you go through a seed if you turn on random encounters, and that allowed us to be guaranteed to find that D machine grind the first time we hit the Giant of Babel, turned on encounters, and fought our first fight, so we didn't have to deal with resetting all the time or fighting unrunnable fights. You can run now, but you still have to get out of the Giant, and I haven't figured out a way to beat that one.
Cross your fingers, I guess.
Yes. Hack and push B to jump.
Clear the rest of the seed, and then you have a 2 out of 3 knowledge of what's in there. But why are we grinding?
True.
I don't think that's the answer.
Sorbius has managed to get through the Kinatsu fight himself, so that's object number 5 on his side.
And Gambit's now going after these dolls to get 3 more spells.
That is one of the things you want to consider when you do get an early food like our runners have, is taking these early bosses that normally don't gate anything, and normally are just a quick check and a reset if they're not required. But these boss spots are fairly easy, especially if you have a modicum of power like both our runners do. So it's absolutely possible to do this, get another 3 spells, advance down Fu's spell list, and get to those really, really strong spells faster.
Yeah, especially if we've got our possibilities, a die or a those. You never know what the next 3 spells are. There's going to be the nuke or the quake or whatever other spell you need to make the fight a lot smoother.
That's right. They are technically random, but they are weighted so that the stronger spells are sort of at the bottom of the list. But you never know when you're going to find an early nuke, for example, in your first, 4, 5, 6 boss spots. And once you hit that, it's the entire sea can open up for you.
Gambit's going to take this Val fight, but the getting into tornado form is going to provide her with enough evasion that Rose is not going to be able to one-shot even with aim. But 2 gets the job done.
Right. I mean, I don't even know off the top of my head what kind of defenses Val gets there. That's how rarely I fight Val there. So that's... I'll get that. You're very happy to see Val there, not a much more potentially nasty spot.
Right. Exactly. Looks like Sorbius is going to go ahead and at least launch the whale, and I presume follow up and check on it.
Yeah, I think that's what I would be doing in this position. I'm not really thrilled with the double Tela. That second Tela really isn't adding much to it right now. So if I can figure out what that character is that's on the moon, if it's good, I can feel comfortable in basically locking my party at this point, because otherwise I feel fairly set.
Gambit, meanwhile, is going after that Baron in. 1 shot from that Speedy Rosa is going to put this Odin down. And we'll see what's next.
It's rarely the first spot here that gives you any problems. It's usually the second spot, which is slow, but has a bit more HP and a lot more punching power.
But it's an Octomon. And it's going to be punchy, but it starts out slow, and after a few hits, it's on. To be fair, the quake that just opened up might not see this.
He's got just enough to survive that quake. Probably just 1 or 2 more heads to take care of that.
Meantime, Sorbius has found another bard.
Doesn't matter where you go, you're always going to find
runners are simultaneously given the option of getting the bard, but Gambit gets the pink tail along with his bard.
That's a lovely find there, because you already have the hook. Go ahead and trade that in. You've got a really nice piece of gear, and just as importantly, you'll get your second objective checked off.
Come on, spoon for Rat Tail. On spoon for Rat Tail.
That would provide a little extra interesting decision for our runners then, because then you do have that spoon you can throw on Edward. But of course, he's still Edward. He's still a little fragile. So is it worth it to keep him going, build him up, and keep him in your party till the end?
Yeah, the spoon is the most powerful weapon in the game. Never intended to be equipped. A flag that got added to the randomizer some time back allows Edward, the spoony bard, to equip it. And as you pointed out, still a little fragile. Okay, that's just insulting.
That's one of those items I don't even realize is in the key item pool.
We have a much more impressive version of firebombing for the pink tail.
Yeah, that's a bit more serious. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a Riddy yet, and even with the Bahamut summon, I don't know if we would want to take one at this point. On the flip side, Sorbius did take a peek at the boss here in the Bahamut cave, found either the Elements or the Rubicante fight, neither of which I feel very comfortable taking on at this point. But hey, we can still do a grind.
Yeah, it's a super punchy spot. Whether it's Rubicant or Elements, they're going to swing hard. Granted, we have probably 4 different people that know Blink as long as Foo's learned it. So it's doable, but it's definitely the sort of thing where you question whether it's worth your time at this point. And Gambit, it's like he's going to dive the hook without going into Fabul. Fortunately, this isn't going to punish him too much since there's no magma there. He does miss out on the darkness and the possibility of the setup that Sorbius has. But I think he's got the power where he'll be fine. He'll probably take them out.
Yeah, I would expect that to happen as well. I know in previous tournaments, with potentially more Jetty flag sets, it was more popular strategy to fade Fabul early, so you had an early hook route in order to try to minimize the number of times you have to come back to Fabul to turn into pan checks as well. It seems like in this flag set, which is generally more lengthy, requires a bit more completion, that's sort of fallen by the wayside, but it does look like Gambit is sort of still following that strategy.
And while we're waiting for Gambit to hunt down its Mad Ogres and then get to the first boss, I'd like to take a moment to give the runners a shout out. If you're not already following them, do so. They've put on a good show to make it to this 3-2 elimination match, and one of them at least is going to be showing us a lot more in brackets. If you go check out what they're doing later, you won't be disappointed. Also, thank you to Starstream for taking care of tracking and keeping things lit up so that we can stay straight here in the booth. And Harumph, keep it up. Keep up the good restream. It's been a good, interesting role for us so far. I know it's been a little bit of a struggle, but sometimes it's like that, and I'm sure you're going to get it straightened out.
It's an interesting spot to find the Elements boss. If we can be smart about how we do the damage, we can kill off Elements before it does the refill, because it's only got about 3,000 hit points before it does that refill, which that quick is going to do. Normally we'd fight a boss here that has about 6,000 hit points and is just as punchy as we saw 2 characters go down, so that's probably a very good place to fight Elements.
Today I learned that Mylon Z floats, but Elements Mylon does not.
That is an important distinction. I think it's also the case that the Rubicante form of Elements is a mage, while the Rubicante in its natural habitat isn't a mage. So if you want to use the mage killing gear, you can do it that way.
You are correct. Also, just in general, the elemental weaknesses throughout the Elements fight are a bit wonky. I think by the time you work your way to Valhalla, she's weak to literally everything.
Now, speaking of bosses that have those divided HP pools, we've got the Dr. Luge fight coming up next. Definitely, this is definitely not a place where you mind seeing Dr. Luge. It splits his HP into 4 different pools for the 2 forms right now, the Elnab Z and the second Luge fight. And the one thing you know about this boss battle, it has a ton of HP relative to your characters, so you're happy to see it split up any way possible.
Yeah, and especially with that quake that we just saw hitting both of them at the same time, effectively doubles the damage of the spell.
Sorbius is done with that quick grind, coming back down here and going to blow through the Baron in checks here. If you compare the HP totals on our runners' Rosas, you got Gambit with a little under 400, while Sorbius is already up to 1200. To sort of see the relative difference in levels. So we'll see if that extra power can help speed Sorbius through this hook round.
Yeah, that's always what you're hoping for in the grind. If you take it and your opponent doesn't, then you know that he's out there making progress. You just have to hope that something slows him down enough for you to catch up. I do have the Balnab Z form in the middle of Gambit's fight. One way or another, this fight will be over soon. And that's bad.
Yes, this looks like Balnab is going to get the chance to explode. So we'll go right to the second phase, while Sorbius takes his tails to the cave and gets the relatively bad news.
Yeah, Firebomb and Bahamut. The only thing you can say is you're one step closer to the worst.
Bahamut sells for a decent amount of money as well. It's also possible to find some decent gear from that.
I think either Asuka or Jeebus are here to tell me how many sirens of Bahamut next quarter.
Well, this is the last week where they're going to be able to do that because we're soon be switching to the S0 flag for the brackets. One of the few changes we're going to be making to make this flag set just that little bit harder for our remaining runners.
Yeah, they're going to give them a money kit to start out with, and they'll still be able to get money from beating up bosses and even taking random encounters if they want. But they're not going to be able to loot and sell, so we're going to have to think very carefully about each and every purchase.
It's one of the things I'm really looking forward to seeing how the metagame shifts once the ability to basically get as much money as you need from looting is no longer on the table.
Sorbius going through Cave Edlin now, up on Gambit's heels as he's working through the last part of the Dr. Luge fight. And he's through.
Very good. And Gambit's through the hook route at just over half hour. That's a fairly good time considering that he also completely cleared the overworld. Except for Febul. I forgot he's not clear Febul.
Except for Febul, but yes, still a good time. You're definitely feel good getting underground in half an hour. Finds a poison axe in a chest not often used.
Also finds that imp fight, one of those free fights that you can absolutely get through with the one of those hourglasses that you just purchased in the Evelyn Cave. I wonder if either runners are going to be tempted to just immediately park their new airship right outside the tower and run up there with it.
Maybe Sorbius more than Gambit. Gambit might go for it. It is a freebie, but Gambit's also... Either of them, honestly. Depends on how committed they are to trying to single Sylph Cave, I think. See that there, maybe you hope that, hey, maybe you hope it's a pan, and you can make things even more efficient.
You know, obviously, if either runners have the tower key, that would be a no-brainer play, but, you know, having the potential of having to run up the tower twice might be enough of a deterrent to say, no, you know what, I'm going to go to the Dwarf Castle, I'm going to go do Fey March, and just clear out the rest of the underground first.
Gambit's going to go for it. is, as you pointed out, a wonderfully valid play when you see a free boss there. Get it out of the way. Sorbius' Quake not getting the job done. I think Gambit had set up with a little bit of damage, but follow-up for Virus gets through without any repercussions.
Yeah, only having to go through half the HP pool there is a great boon.
You really don't want to deal with that Ruby phase any longer than you absolutely have to. Like, it starts out with just a Fire 2 on the whole party and starts ramping it up. Our French vanilla DMs have taken over Lower Babel, emerging from the Super Cannon room, and sending Luge up, receiving his promotion.
To be fair, it gets cramped in there, you know. You want to stretch your legs every so often.
With a Quake Gambit, I don't think it's going to get the job done on its own. Oh no, it's a Stone. Audience stopped on Quake. Stone makes so much more sense.
Especially with your in the, I imagine even if he wasn't in the middle position because you had an extra accuracy bonus, that Fu would still be able to do enough damage there. Just finds a Dragoon Spear. Is choosing to walk it down though.
And if he's got the same cane that Sorbius has, then he's got someone ready to. But he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
No, because that was from the Sand Ruby there. She doesn't have just yet.
Right. Oh yeah, you go ahead and walk it out. I think you could still have a cane.
True.
You get the experience on your Rosa.
It is kind of interesting seeing Gambit's party because he is choosing to keep the Eddie down and both Tellas down, not getting experience. So it looks like he's got his choice of anchors, whichever one he wants.
Yeah, no real reason to level any of them. Fu is handling both the utility and the damage mage. He might have a rude Feymarch fight where he needs those Tellas to link or like that. And plus, as Infinius points out, Fu doesn't have all his spells unlocked, so walking it out just for 3 more spells is worthwhile.
That's true. I think he has just one more boss's worth of spells to learn, then he'll have his entire spell list, given his HP total right now.
Yes, you are correct. And then one more fight after that will give him the last bit of hit points that he needs. It's just coming up Dragoon Spears, or spears in general for a Dragoon. White Spear. Casually hanging out here.
Once he does find that cane, I'm sure he'll be very happy that he has all this artillery ready for him.
Yeah. You have your choice. Spear, which its amazing attack power and also its ability to go after one weak to holy damage, but you've also got the Dragoon Lance for gold dragons that you saw Sorbius fighting earlier. There's a few other pesky dragon bosses.
Sorbius, on the other hand, is through to the second half of the Luge fight and looks to have this well in hand, and in fact is through just about 5 or 6 minutes behind Gambit at this point.
And Ribbon is a Feymarch freebie. I mean, a Ribbon's a good bit of gear, but the item is what we wanted here.
We are getting a lot of the equipment in the key item pool out of the way early, it seems. It seems like it's going to speak to a loaded boon or maybe a required Feymarch in our runner's future.
Yeah, that's a good call. I disagree with that. Also thinking that our runners do find an Earth Crystal, that they might be inclined to let the treasury go. Can't get anything tier 7 out of it. And we've got some pretty good gear.
We've also got a really interesting boss combination down there, the Feymarch. Pre-fight on the Leviathan side, And we have a spark on the Asura side that might be a bit more of an issue depending on what it is. But given the power that we have on the Fu and the Rosa, I take our chances against most fights here.
Yeah, I'm definitely going after those guards first. So many options for dealing with them. You can try and land that stone. If you really want to life glitch them, you could hourglass them and let Rosa go to work with that Elven Bow. It targets all mages for quadruple damage, and the Baron guards are mages. You can handle it whichever way you want. If you have some coffins sitting around, and I think Gambit did loot one coffin in Eblin, then that could get one of them out of the list. Sparkle, as you pointed out, that's the much bigger question.
Got a bit of deviation here. Sorbius opting not to fly up the tower like Gambit did. Instead, going to Dwarf Castle and is going to find an evil wall in the first spot here.
And the other thing about that Sparkle, of course, is that Ogopogo is our fourth objective. So,
yes, that's absolutely true. I think you absolutely peak it, if nothing else.
Yeah, definitely. Even if Ogo wasn't an objective, I'd still like to know what the boss is here. Even if I'm going to run away from it, just the information is too useful. Yeah, but not chasing the light glitch with that coffin. Just making sure to get one of them out of the way fast.
And Gambit going 0 for 2 on the stone cast right now, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, going with a more reliable weak cast now. Fu, as long as he can land it before taking too many punches, but nope, there it goes. He's got time in his options, and that Rosa has a heroine robe. Gets the hourglass in. Is there another attack queued? Doesn't look like it. Okay.
So always one of those things you run into is when you accidentally underestimate a so-called free fight and find that you have to reset out of it. It never feels good.
Yeah, this is a super punchy spot, and like the attempt to, of course, now this like the attempt to save the hourglass, but it almost cost him. Definitely cost him a little bit of time. Ag. Gambit says you're not worth the price of admission.
No, definitely reset, save your heal, and let's go back there and see what that sparkle is instead.
My hourglass back. Walk up and heal. Taking it all back. Keep your out.
Sorbius has found the Dark Elf as the second part of the Dwarf Castle check, has gotten to the meat change. Plague is here in the Asura spot, definitely doable.
Yeah. Rosa is probably fast enough to be RA1 versus that Eddie. And if so, then Zerk is all he needs. The count will get down to 0, but never actually trigger, and Plague being a floating enemy is going to take extra damage from those.
Looking like we're doing a safety berserk on that food as well. Definitely with the two berserkers there. The queue will get so clogged that the count will never resolve. It'll just get stuck on 0, like you said.
I'm helping, says Fu. Oh, we're even gonna get a bit of telelife on this berserking action. Hey, 4 Zerkers, like, this is
Not quite quint, but quad, baby.
yeah, I don't want to ruin an anchor, but oh.
Sorbius picked up the pass in Dwarf Castle. Nice find. Does mean that when and if we do get our go mode, we can just go straight through there through the overworld instead of having to walk down the lunar subterranean.
Yeah, there's a chance we wrap up on the moon with an Ogo, but the odds are very good at the Dark Crystal.
Looks like our runners are going to conversion very soon. Sorbius is also walking down through the Fey March. We'll see if he feels comfortable enough to take on the bosses here or decides to fade them instead.
Well, we already know that if he goes after the Baron Guards, he's not going to be paid for it. But again, I would not be surprised to see him take it for the same reasons Gambit did, then move on to play.
No, it is, I think it is 100% the right play to take a free boss here if you see it.
Oh, that pays.
There's half the forge, yeah. So we are now just a Legend Sword away from completing objective number 2. And also importantly, I think if I were running this, I'd be very happy to know Baymart out of the picture. Don't have to worry about having to come back and deal with the boss bots, because if you don't take them off the first time you come down here, they're always hanging over your head as a potential, place where you're going to have progression just buried.
Kryuji Sorbius has found D-Mist in Fabul, and Rydia's mom handed over the Darkness Crystal.
And no surprise there, Sorbius sees that free Garth fight and please, let's go ahead and take that.
Is also going to try and land the stone, but he leads with the Hourglass. Not going to take any chances with how punchy this spot is.
As you see, as it just takes out both the cane and that forward-facing Tella.
And also the miss. Stone has some accuracy issues, even for fully powered H, but gets it on the second go. All right, give him time to get Kane some XP.
Here, all planned.
It's calculated. He's, however, content to keep it and just go straight after the Sparkle. Yes, if he resets out of the Sparkle, no need to keep the cards fight.
That's right, and he's going to have a lot more berserking damage, so he does have that cane, as with the Gambit, who's just having to berserk the Foos and the Tella. So this fight will go up a little bit faster for him. Not only, and also counting the extra levels he has as well.
Right. Another way he's making up time from that run. How do you feel about a small child instead of an old man? It's like a good plan, apparently.
I could definitely see trading out the second old man. I don't know if I would have traded out a Tella in that situation if it was my only Tella for a Quorum. I feel like my white mage is pretty solid here with both a Rosa and a Fu.
Right. For Sorbius to make that trade would be a clear sign of the flinch rates, even though there's a cane sitting there with perfectly wonderful weapons. Gambit, it's like, one Tella usually gets the job done.
You mentioned reflex strats there, which seem to have fallen a little bit out of favor in this flag set. It appears that most people are going with the more berserk heavy strats, since we no longer have that experience boost flag on, where if a character is 5 levels below the median in the party, they get double experience until they catch up, which really helps those mages that you get later in the game get up to the levels they need to do the reflex strats against Z. So if we do end up going with reflex strats, it'll probably require a little extra grinding, but given the character selection we've seen so far, it's definitely on the table.
Yeah, and the other thing helping more traditional hybrid strats is that we're on T Wildish, and the warriors stand a very good chance of finding the weapons they need to be able to contribute in the end game.
That is true, and that's another thing that will be changing once we switch over to the Black Bracket flags. I think we're going over to a T Pro setting in that case, so but being rewarded with lots of strong weapons may no longer be the case.
Yeah, we might see a little more focus on looting, particularly in some places that are already tending to loot, but you might see runners being more selective about only getting places like Watery Pass, Cave Edlin. You might even see some Castle Edlin.
Oh, that would be interesting.
And Sorbius is letting Keyless Tower and Dark Imps go for now. We know that there's just a Dragoon Lance up there, so not too big a deal, but them not knowing it is an interesting call.
That is true. One of the interesting things that change around is when you do go down the hook route, you do get a preview of what the boss is at the top of the tower. Since we know that it is the Imps fight, we know that's a free fight. We can definitely say that doing a keyless tower is, definitely a potential play. Had we not had that information, we would be saying it's probably worth the fading because we do have checks elsewhere.
Yeah, when you don't know what's up there, it's a rude wyvern or something else that was a problem. And yeah, it's a different story. We're starting to run out of options.
Well, we'll have to see what Sheila 1 gives us. Otherwise, after that, it is going to be the moon.
Yeah. Between our two runners, everything will have been cleared. So, about that. the keyless tower fade looking a little better now.
Well, that's going to definitely be a point in Sorbius' favor. He's going to be able to get both those checks done at once. Gambit is going to be getting the tower key very soon. We'll also be getting the Darkness Crystal as well, since he hasn't had the chance to get that. Well, Sorbius did the Mist fight a lot earlier. So we'll see if that also makes some deviation in his route.
And the Sand Ruby there from the King of the Wool is going to be very rewarding when he picks up game. Welcome, Raiders that came along with the Bardic Panda. We're here, we're not quite an hour in. The runners have cleared the hook route and pretty much cleared out the underground. Sorbius still needs to do the tower. No one's really done too much on the moon. Sorbius found the character up there. It was another Edward, and that's about where we're at. I just got to figure out what to do next. I feel like you definitely do the Darkness Crystal. You don't want to forget the Mist. Actually, once you can just park right here in the middle and take care of the Sand Ruby at the same time.
That's some efficient routing there. You need both of them at the same time for the Wool check.
Gambit tried so quick to get Kane in that party that he tried to feed him a cure too.
You're going to need something a little stronger than that, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Emily says goodbye to the Bard. Hurts, but I understand.
And while Sorbius is climbing the tower, doing the usual thing of getting the top of the tower done before you come back and do the cannon room on the way back, since you are unable to exit from this location.
Yeah, Yeah, if you think you might reset the fight, you'll sometimes see runners drop a save in the save room on the floor before the super cannon. That way they can reset out. And then it's a small optimization. It does save you a little bit of time, but you do see that sort of thing, especially in an elimination match. You see people testing exit to get out of towns rather than taking a walk out.
I do want to say, for both of our runners, if they're feeling any nerves for playing what it is essentially an elimination match to get to the next phase of the brackets, they're not showing it. I think they're both doing an excellent job so far.
No, they both know their stuff. Sorbius is a bit newer to the community. Gambit's an old hand who's been around since at least World Gauntlet a couple of tournaments ago, but Sorbius has definitely jumped in early and showed that he could run with the best, and he's proving that in this tournament. Our runners are converging on the super cannon directions.
You take the high road, I'll take the low road.
Sorbius is going to get there first. Not by much.
And we'll have a quick ant-lion fight in front of us. This boss spot has approximately 3 hit points, so yeah, 1 hit will do it.
Being said, everyone has a story of losing to this fight. That story usually involves objective 4 there of the book. Unless you're really fast and really strong, and you generally aren't in fast synchro mode when you come to this spot anyway. Pogo's gonna get those 2 big waves off. You're gonna lose half your max HP, so you just got beat up top of tower fight, for instance. It'd be a sad day.
Yeah, that's one mistake you make once, and then you always make sure you have at least one character who has enough hit points to survive that double big wave every time you go into that room.
If you're a little worried, you press the confirm button when you walk in. See if you're staring down the sparkle. You can't get out of the room, but you could at least heal up or take whatever precautions you feel are necessary. If you're worried about the wyvern that Phineas is talking about, maybe you lower your battle speed.
Fortunately, that spot does have pretty low hit points. Well, it does have low hit points. It does also have low magic power, so it's entirely possible to dodge the Mega Nuke in that spot. Not guaranteed, but it's possible.
Yeah. Power shirt, not the payment our runners were hoping for. So after a considerable amount of divergence, runners are heading up to the moon together to take on the only possibility they have left. In search of 2 of the 3 missing objectives, because in the tournament we only need to complete 4 out of 5 objectives to receive the crystal. Looking for a twin harp, a legend sword, and looking for that note probe.
I'll be interested to see how much grinding either of our runners choose to do, because looking at these party compositions, I'm not thrilled with how things are turning out right now. This is definitely a time where I'm looking for at least one more melee person, or at least a pal or something to do some strong nukes at the end of the game. I don't know how much time I want to devote grinding these people up if I want to potentially switch them out for someone else later.
And nuke white is not an ideal reflect. Man, it's workable, but white is a slower spell and has a longer charge time. And it's going to be a little tougher to get Zeromus weakened before you take the full Big Bang, and a little tough to execute recovery.
Well, we find Golbez here at the Murasame altar, and you know what? If you're coming to this fight with 2 people already down, it's not the end of the world. This is pretty good.
No, not at all. Gold is going to pop out and paralyze anyone that's not immune, which just means Kane, thanks to a heroine robe and a crystal ring, I bet. But then Dragon's going to look around and munch until there are only 2 people left.
Does mean that Fu is going to have the opportunity to get a Star Veil up before Golbus does anything, so we aren't at the mercy of Board AI to make sure that we can get our characters safe from the spells of Golbus.
Still a hefty amount of hit points. Fu's going to have 3 nukes to throw and maybe some bounced spells off that wall. It might get the job done, but why not? Boom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm counting about 6,600 damage so far, and I think this spot's upward of 30k.
Say, if you don't want to go into that elixir that you start the game with, and if you haven't found any ethers, whether by purchasing or found them in treasures, this might be a couple issues to deal with here.
And the other thing is you can't count on Golbez to finish himself off on a reflected spell. He's got a lot of points. The Y thing that normally ends the fight triggers at the normal hit points for the spot, but that's a counterattack script. And this is a case of the reflected spell not triggering a counterattack working against you.
If you can keep a good count of the hit points here, it's entirely possible you could just throw out a J item after enough time to trigger the Y and the goal-based fade, but it looks like Sorbius does get out a nuke after the ether and gets through the fight.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Sorbius is the one saying, well, why?
There have been so many. I mean, when you get a key item location, you get an equipment. You're hoping for at least a decent piece of equipment. You're just getting firebombs, getting dragoon helmets. It's just insulting almost.
Rumpf, tell us the truth. You turn K-Trap on. This is a dragoon helm, Firebird lover. It's starting to feel like it. Number of whammies in these key item checks. It's been unreal.
If we were playing a mystery seed, we didn't know the flag set, I would definitely be looking at a couple of trap chests to see if maybe there are K-Trap on.
Oh, definitely. Gambit taking care of his grind now, setting up for the moon. Dilbert suggesting a K-Lol flag.
The K-Troll flag, yes. Everything's in one long chain that's hidden behind a terrible boss spot at that's Moon Altar.
This goes to show you, like, it looked like it had the potential to speed up. We got the early Pinktail turn in, and we got that Kainazo on Ordeals. But the rest of the objectives are being a bit shy, a bit coy.
And that is one thing I have found watching the races in this flag set is that you can go from a potential jet seed to being stuck in the mud for 40 minutes looking for another objective. And on the flip side, you can go from being nowhere to being in go mode 10 minutes. It all depends on how things fall and how you do the routing.
Yeah, Painman lives up to his name in this spot, but Rosa not even having time to get her healing in, but who said, you know what? I'm making sure one person lives to tell the tale.
That looked a little dicey there for a few seconds. Yeah, the clutch cure 4 out of Fu, and we're going to get to learning all about justice.
Twin Harp is an objective. Meanwhile,
yep.
So Sorbius now in the lead, not willing to leave just on the Twin Harp, and I don't blame him. There's a boss and a key item there. You'd be really wanting either of the two to hit in order for this to be your go mode, and I certainly wouldn't bail with just this in hand.
No, I agree. I don't want to make this trek down the lunar subterranean twice. I think I want to clear this thing out, especially since I already have the pass in hand. I don't want to come back down here.
Gambit's taking advantage of the very low physical attack power in this spot, or magic power, excuse me, the physical power. Magic power is very low, so he can berserk up his Rosa and not really worry about the fire 2 counters that Rubicon is responding.
Sorbius checked the white altar very quickly, found the alt gauntlet hiding out there, and saying, "You know what? I'll leave that till later."
Done worse things for grinds, but it's time consuming, and Sorbius really isn't in. Move on to faster checks.
How about this for a faster check?
Yeah, that'll work great. You can play this however you want. You can slap a fatal spell if Fu should know that one. You can fatal the guard in the back and get a life glitch on for extra XP. You can just nuke him down. However you want to play this. A lot of HP, and the officer gets the bulk.
Yeah, looks like we're gonna get a double life glitch out of this this officer fight here.
Nice.
Thanks to the timing of putting out the weak and the virus, got enough time to get 2 lives out.
Big payday. Now just get the stone to land, and you can call it a day. Only does the officer have the bulk of the points, he's got the bulk of the XP, so you don't really need to worry about life glitching soldiers.
It's a nice about 120,000 experience for getting those life glitches off, and rewarded with the Batman key that could have been used full about an hour ago.
Yeah, Magma Key, all we can say now is you are at 9 key items. Congratulations. We're running out of options. There's an alt gauntlet. There's a crystal sword altar that Sorbius is quickly warping to. And Gambit not able to make his way through that Rubicon fight, so unless he heads back down there, it's going to remain a mystery. But it looks like he is setting up to go down there, scooping up an ice brand to take advantage and giving Fu 10 more MP with a Soma drop. That'll give him a 4th nuke. Looks like he's going to go for it.
Yeah, the spot is absolutely doable. It just requires a little bit of finesse to get the with the berserks going on, because you're going to have that those fire counters coming at you, not doing a whole lot of damage, but continually ticking down your HP. So it just requires a.
Yeah, with a berserk character, it's just enough continuous damage that you really can't revive anyone. When someone goes down, you're never getting them back up reliably. And that lair, even with that little damage, is still likely to put someone down, to say nothing. Let's see if we have any orb tricks from Sorbius. There's a lot of ways that you can work this fight to make it go faster. They're a bit riskier.
We just did see a Berserk come out on the Cane, which I think does qualify as riskier.
It does. Typically, the answer with Berserkers is to pick one of the smaller orbs and put Blink on it so that it stays up. CPU, if CPU looks around and sees both the attacker and defender around, launches two Globe 199s, and even at a low magic attack spot like the Crystal Sword Altar, still gonna do enough damage to put anyone on the ground, and then he just revives the orb back. But no, we're just going for YOLO. We're just going for power overwhelming, drop the swag rocks, and hope to cut down the CPU with the Berserkers after.
Right, with the heals that were pulling out, you can see that this spot had about 21,000 hit points, so that media took down about half. So hopefully we can get out the rest of this hit points for the smaller orbs revive, and getting that Global 99 on the Tela is a great start, and Rosa finishing off as well. Very nicely done.
Nice. And it's an ideal spot for that Globe 199 to land. And we have a Baron Key. More things opening up.
So now the question is, do you do that alt gauntlet, or do you say, I've seen enough? I think the answer is Sorbius has seen enough.
Yeah, if he's skipping out on the alt gauntlet, I expect him to skip out on that Rubicon as well and just head down to Earth, ace his Twin Harp objective, and if that doesn't get him go mode, he knows that he can follow straight up into Baron Castle, which has 3 chances to be the Ogopogo and 2 chances to be the Legend Sword. Speaking of chances to be a Legend Sword, Gambit's run down.
That is very interesting. That's the kind of objective you think about turning in immediately, because it is 2 key items as opposed to just 1. Obviously, we know that the Twin Harp is deep down in the moon, but I would not be surprised to see him turn this in immediately before checking the rest of the moon.
Well, he says it's not enough yet. He's gonna look. With Earth full cleared, if hand's your only thing and you leave for just it, then you're looking for you're either looking for it to have everything in the form of Harp Legend, or looking for it to have one of them and have the other one be a key item that opens up some boss chests, like Earth Crystal or the Baron Key that we know isn't there, or even Luca Key, and somehow that creating a chain that leads to everything. So I could understand leaving, but I also, which he did, but I also would have understood if he stayed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those things there just is not any solid choice to be made. It's not one side or the other. I don't feel has a stronger argument to be made than the other. It's just really comes down to your gut, and that's one of the things that makes a randomizer so interesting.
And if it doesn't chain, then you've probably left a save on the moon and you just reset to it. And if it does chain, you follow it up and you hope it gives you everything. But while we've been discussing Gambit's options, Sorbius has made his way down into Cave Magnus. Which means that in a moment, we're going to get some tombs from Spoony B, but we'll get to see what this pan item is first. Well, that opens things up.
That's a really interesting check. It also potentially gives you it definitely gives you 2 characters. It potentially can expand the options that your party has. Although at this point, your post grind, I don't know if you feel very comfortable taking on more characters at this moment.
Yeah, I'd take a second Fu. Sorry, I might take a Cecil if I've still got Holy Sword sitting around. I don't think we've seen any. So yeah, tough to take someone at this stage. But before we get kicked out of the booth, we're gonna shut up and let Edward play a song.
And with the music of Final Fantasy IX's Overworld playing, we do get through our max cave check, and that's a nice piece of gear, but not progression.
And this is why Sorbius did not bail immediately on getting the Twin Harp. Alone is not enough. Gambit needs Earth Crystal to pay off big. Sorbius just needs one more thing out of the Baron Key. Advantage Sorbius, but is a randomizer. We could have a hard required Earth Crystal. That means that the only thing that mattered is taking on that Rubicon at a value.
You know, at this point, I would not wager on either of these runners finishing ahead of the other one.
Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. It is the O.
Oh, wow.
And just like that, Gambit's going to get a third objective.
Technically, that means that the Ogo was available from minute 1, because you don't need the Earth Crystal to fight that one.
Don't even need the Earth Crystal. If you felt like making one of the cheekiest moves possible, Earthless Zot, you could have gotten objective 4 right then.
So technically, if Sorbius wants to walk 2 squares north from where he is right now and go to Tower Zot, he could have go mode.
He is in go mode and doesn't realize it. In all reality, our runners are racing for the Legend Sword or to cover the ground the other left behind. Gambit would have to dive down to the Ribbon Room, which is a logical place to go to if he returns. Scoop up his Twin Harp there, and then he could leave, assuming he doesn't find the Legend Sword. Sorbius, on the other hand, if his Legend Sword comes up empty, would have to come up and go to Cave Value if he can't find it somewhere else.
The places we haven't seen yet, we haven't seen Baron or Earth. We still have Mugaki out. We also don't know what is behind the white spear altar. Sorbius did decide not to fade that. So I think one of those places I have to have the Legend Sword.
Yeah, if our runners don't come up with it now. But yeah, it's entirely possible that the legend is deep inside the sealed cave or at that white spear altar, in which case both of our runners, temporarily at least, are going to come up empty.
Our first character check is Rydia, which would be great right now if we needed an anchor, but I think both our runners are solid on that front. There is that Cecil.
Again, I think the best we've seen for him is a lightsaber. I love Cecil. If you know me, you know this, but even for me, that's a hard sell. But he's going to take it. Because I don't need 2 white mages. I'm going to take my chances of just getting Forge. Oh, wait, never mind. There's an Excalibur sitting. We're good.
Yeah, if we have the Excalibur and the power shirt still to give out, then
I'd forgotten about the Excalibur from Ordeals. Yeah, with an Excalibur in hand, you take Cecil. Even at level 1, he'll start contributing and he'll power up pretty.
And you got the 10 key items, so really 2 or 3 sirens, and he's going to be in like about 40s, which is all he needs to get through this evening.
Okay. And we were talking earlier about how you didn't really have an ideal party composition with just Kain as a warrior. This is a much more comfortable Z fight once Cecil gets power.
100%. This is pretty darn near an optimal party configuration right now for Gambit.
Sorbius can get it done with a little more levels. Just needs to make sure that Rosa can survive, and Kane for that matter, can survive a Big Bang unnerfed, or just be really confident in his nerfing. And just have Rosa heal up after every Big Bang, and Kane's eventually going to cut down Z. But you add Cecil with an Excalibur, and it becomes so much better.
Yang is the character here. That's a pretty quick see you later on Sorbius' side.
Yeah. Lord Goober, Earth Crystal was the Pan check, and Pan came from Cave Value, which Gambit has done, but Sorbius hasn't. Gambit's going to get a look at his key item first. It's a spoon. Not what he had in mind.
No, the leaving the moon after finding that Pan did provide value, but it didn't provide enough value, so it's back to the moon for him.
If he goes straight to the ribbon room, he gets his go mode. Sorbius getting a full moon from the pot. That's worse. The spoon is the item. I think.
Wow.
Yeah. Big. So Sorbius is going to save and go straight to the Baron basement, which might give him what he needs. In the meantime, Gambit's going in, and it's going to be a question of whether Gambit goes top down or goes straight to the ribbon room. It's tense.
This is
for us in the booth, because we know exactly where the runners could go to solve all of their problems. Oh, and they're making perfectly logical plays. And Gambit turn right, says he is going to the rune. In the meantime, Sorbius finds the freest of bosses in Baron Castle, King Queen Evelyn. He'll be through this in no time.
If there was any one boss you wanted to see in this spot right now, is, get this over with quickly. Let them defeat themselves, get this key item, and hopefully it gives you what you need.
This could be really close. Sorbius gets this if this is legend.
On the flip side, if the legend is behind the alt gauntlet, Gambit is going to be in a very good position, because I'm pretty sure he'd want to take that to get the levels onto Cecil.
Yeah, well, Sorbius needs this to hit, or he is in a bit of trouble. If this hits, he's got a clear advantage in that he's already on Earth. He runs over, all he has to do is forge. Gambit, even if he goes straight to the ribbon room and does no grinding, still has to come back down to Earth with the Twin Harps, still has to walk down Cave Magnus and listen to Eddie's song before he can get his crystal. He'll have the pass, so he'll be ready to go, but Sorbius has that too. Legend Sword here is ball heavily in Sorbius's court. If this misses, it's just a matter of how quickly Sorbius can get to wherever it is.
Oh no.
The white shirt. He's going to walk that out, because you don't turn down a white shirt when you're thinking about big bangs. Nope. Shows what I know.
That might be a frustration reset more than anything. Yeah.
I can survive big bangs without a white shirt. We're good. Where do you go next, Sorbius? You've got Cave Value, which gives you the long chain, which will eventually get you to the Ogo that you don't need the Earth Crystal for. It'll point you in the direction. You could go to that Gauntlet as well. Gauntlet's the easier fight, but the longer walk. I'm not sure which way he's going to
I think we've pretty much locked in the fact that Gauntlet has to have the Luca Key, which has to have the Legend Sword at this point. I think that's the only way we can get full completion at this point.
Yeah, you're right. So that is the chain. It is how it plays out. So, yeah. Gambit plans a Cure 4 for the party. And there are already people strong enough to take 2 waves now, not Cecil. That's fine. Get a life in real fast and make sure he gets... Nope, missed it. would have liked that 200k experience on Cecil.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get to about 2,000 hit points as a rule of thumb to survive an unnerfed Big Bang in the Z fight. So I would imagine, even after he gets the good news here and realize that he's in go mode, that he'll probably still take one more fight to get up to that level. Or I could be proven wrong.
No, we just it's hard to predict runners as a commentator. Don't I know it? You just and I've gone up and down to this moon back and forth. I'm not feeling good about all the extra travel time I'm put in. It just feels bad as a runner when you've done a lot of running around. It's real easy to think about your opponent doing things much faster and feeling like you better go. Also, you could well be out of Hourglass suits, as Chad is pointing.
That is a very good point. But no, absolutely. As a runner, you're thinking that, okay, the moon had the goods this game. If my opponent cleared the moon in one pass, had the foresight and the nerve to just basically clear it all out, they must be in go mode now. I might be behind. So it's so tense.
Yep. So without Hourglasses, he's going to come down here with Sirens. He's got 10 key items, and he's just going to set Cecil up in the top position with that Excalibur and say, please take these eggs out for me. Noodle shops, the noodle was in the Magus Sister spot. So Sorbius could pick it up now, even without the Earth Crystal from the pan that he's about to get at Ruby. It's just a really unlikely play. Earth Crystal he's going to get there is going to point him in the right direction.
One thing that I am happy for both of our runners' sake is that neither of them were tempted to look at the giant, maybe see if Ogo was in that first spot, especially as things start to get near the end here.
That is either my last check in this set or my next to last check, because the other thing that I put very late on the list is package. We'll do just about anything else before I go after spots, strictly on it. Especially because, like, it could be the CPU one. You don't know that unless you deal with the Wyvern or the elements. And if you're only going to look at one, well, package is going to be quicker.
Looks like Gambit has his Cecil up to a 2300, but wants a bit more. Cracks one more egg there.
Yeah. You're going to stop and grind. You might as well stop and do it right. Give yourself that little extra offense and defense when it comes to taking on Z. You could easily get the time back you spend, especially when the eggs were being that efficient, just by making your Z fight that much better.
Looks like that's going to do it for him, though. He is parking and is going to be going through the pass route to take on Zeromus very shortly.
And
well, now see, here's the thing. I would have gone for this. God, I made that mistake more times than I would care to admit.
Yeah, it's a thing. Malakoth, one of the joys of the Twin Heart cutscene is he's going to get a full heal. So he doesn't need to check in with a white choker.
Sorbius gets through the Ruby fight. He's going to get that pan. I imagine he's going to immediately turn around and turn that in. We could be in for quite a finish at this point, because that's going to be quicker than the cutscene here to get up to the close Ogo fight.
I think Gambit gets there first. He has to go through song and cutscene, but Sorbius has to go back to Earth, back underground, do the bonk, Earth Crystal. He has to then not be willing to follow up on Sheila 2, which seems unlikely, knowing all he needs is a Legend Sword. Then he's got to fly over the top and go through that. I think Gambit gets it. I think Gambit gets to Z before Sorbius gets to.
I agree, and since Sorbius is more likely to leave the tower as soon as he sees Ogo. He's not going to get a chance to power him up. Gambit has a better composition for the Z fight as well, which will serve him in good stead.
He might. I mean, it is cutscene and fight and cutscene versus a walkout. I'm not sure what I would do as a runner, honestly. Excuse me. We are once again going to keep ourselves from getting kicked out by
We know how to welcome Raiders from Randomania with some harp music, a reprise of the Final Fantasy IX Overworld theme. And that's going to put Gambit into go mode. Sorbius, as soon as he turns to that pan, gets and goes to Earth Crystal to get the Zot. The first boss in Zot to fight Ogo will also be in go mode. So we are aiming for a very, very close race right now.
Yeah, it's Gambit's to lose, but you can never guarantee a Z fight. Anything, one little slip, and Z will punish you. Gambit's a runner that who probably gets through on the first go, and if he does, the race is his. But if something goes wrong, Sorbius is right back in it.
We're going to switch out Rose's gear, make her a very solid white mage, given the amount of equipment we found so far. We've got two good melee characters swinging away. We've got a Fu to throw out maybe some extra heals or a nuke or two if we so desire. We've got a very, very solid party right now.
Yeah, and Harumph gave our runners a nice twisty path. A lot of stuff on the moon and gave a lot of reasons to bail. And both of our runners got part of what they needed on the moon, went back to Earth to follow that piece, and had to go back up to the moon to get the job done.
But now, as Gambit makes the short walk to Zeromus, we've got a few flags out in chat. I think we have a question we need to ask right now.
You're right. There is a question we had to ask now. Would you like to ask it, or would you like me to ask it?
I'll take the honors tonight.
Before it.
As we have quite a number of extra sprites that our esteemed final boss can turn into, it now comes my honor to ask, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Yes. Zeromus fight is exactly as you'd expected in the vanilla game, except that when the crystal is used to transform Zeromus and reveal his true colors, there are now 526 different sprites, one of which is randomly selected when the seed is generated. And that is the butt that we are going to kick. Most of these sprites put in by our own art dev Scala Kitty, some of the earlier ones by our very own Board Face. Some of them are very cute. Some of them are just straight up fridge horror. What's it going to be tonight? To us swinging
I'd qualify that as cute, sure.
Virgil works. There, yeah. Asuka, somewhat of a fan of the Devil May Cry franchise, and Virgil in particular.
On Sorbius' side, he gets the good news, I suppose, finding that Ogopogo was here all along. Going to get through this fight fairly quickly, given his power levels, and gets his crystal.
It might not have a silk web, but double slow will get the job done just as well. Takes a little longer, but you got Zerkers ready to go. So you've got enough damage, it may not even need the full silk web. Come on, Gambit, stab him once with a spoon. There's that much! It's right there!
Alas, not to be.
Bad things.
So yeah, we've got the two Berserkers going up, dishing out some very nice damage. We've got even reflected white casts coming out with Rosa. The only thing that I would worry about in this situation is the fact that Rosa is the one with the wall up, so it's going to be harder to heal her. But we're not even get there.
There'd just be so much power that it doesn't matter. Everybody, Gambit is just torn through this Virgil. It's like it wasn't even there. GG's, moving up to 4-2, punching his ticket to the brackets in elimination match.
I do believe we are joined by our winner tonight, Gambit. GG's.
GG's. That was an interesting seed.
The first thing I want to ask you is, just something that's happened. I think that was Phil's. Yeah, you got through with the reflex. Was that your plan all along, or did that just happen?
That just happened. That was. I do believe you're right. I do believe that was a refill skip, which I guess I got lucky with the X-Cal swing doing just enough damage to take care of it. That was not intentional. I was waiting for Rose's turn to come up so I could toss a Cure 4, and thankfully did not need it.
Yeah, we were speculating about the horrors of a wombo combo or your healer having the wall up, and then it became a move.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Routing. Talk about the routing at the end. You get up to the moon, a merry little trip on Earth. You get the pan, and you run down. You get some help, but not quite everything you need. Is the panic setting in, or are you still feeling good?
I was panicking on my second trip up to the moon. Finding the Yogo Pogo in the Maggot Scissor spot was great. I'm like, all right, yay, cool, this is an objective. And when Zot didn't pay off with anything except for a Cecil, I was in panic mode going, okay, so the path to both Twin Harp and Legend Sword are up here on the moon somewhere. Sorbius is a good enough runner. I'm willing to bet he's already up on the moon. He's probably already clearing checks. Probably already has at least one of the paths to it, if not both. I am feeling very far behind. I need to go dive down all the way down to the ribbon room, hope to get lucky there, and point at Twin Harp. I'm like, okay, I've still got a chance here.
Yeah, and I don't know if you talked to him in the room afterwards, but he did the inverse of what you did. He found that Twin Harp and went down to check on it after also finding the Baron key. And then that didn't give him everything he needed, and he also had to come back up. So
yeah, that was my only hope was that there was some kind of rabbit hole dead end down there that was enough for Sorbius to reset, or not reset out, but to go chase looking for one thing. But same decision I made when I found the pan in Cave Value behind that ruby. I'm like, that's 2 key item checks. And if it turns into a chain item, that's additional boss checks. Let's chase it. Let's see. That's why I left the save up on the moon so I could reset back to it. And ended up, as I said, finding that Ogopogo. I was like, okay, never mind. We're not going to reset after all. We're going to keep on trucking, see what we find.
In the earlier part of the seed, you were running with basically a two-man party of Rosa and Fu, and you know when you're in a situation where you're trading out a Porum for a Tella, I'm sorry, Tella for a Porum, you're wondering, are you ever wondering, how am I ever going to get the characters that I'm going to need to beat the game with?
I had Warrior Rosa. Warrior Rosa was online. She was kicking butts and taking names early seed. Finding that heroine robe, samurai bow, samurai arrows, and then Fu down that hook route. You saw my routing. I went straight to Ordeals. Ordeals was the first stop I made. 10 minutes in, I'm already defeating Kanazo in a back attack spot. I'm just like, yeah, no, let's roll, let's go. Then there was a lack of characters for a while because it was the Tella and Edward show for the longest time. I was very excited to see that Sand Ruby and that Kane and finding that White Spear. I'm like, I've got stuff to kick Kane out. Let's go ahead and take him. And as I said, I saw that Cecil and I'm like, yes, I've done part of a grind, but Cecil can catch up pretty easily. He doesn't need that many levels. We're taking him over what we've got, over that Porum, and let's just roll. And again, I did the one Ryu, then the DKC at Ribbon, and those 2 fights plus the eggs were enough.
If you go back and watch and compare your decisions to Sorbius took a little more time early. He did Wool before going underground, and he had Kane already and was starting to put those spears to use. And he also went up to the moon and took out a pair of gold dragons. So you got underground well before he did, but he had much more power. And by the time you all were returning to the moon, he had used that power to pass you. And it was his lead, and we're just up here in the booth watching him run through Baron as you're running through Earth, wondering what's going to pay. And when neither one did, oh, it was tense. It was tense up here.
Yeah, that was. I made the decision to fade for Bull. Looking at, Warrior Rosa and Fu, I'm like, I can get through pretty much anything on the hook route. I'm not scared, especially once I got Fu up to Quake. And then the irony of him learning Nuke right after the Luge fight was hilarious to me. But I faded that intentionally, and then when I saw the D-Mist, because again, I full cleared Underground. Everything I could. Full cleared the Fame Arch, did Dwarf Castle, did Top of Tower, before I went back to Fabul. Saw that D-Mist, and then as a Sand Ruby, and then D-Mist giving Darkness, and I'm going, Sorbius has probably already gone to the moon. Probably, hourglasses were available in Elbin. Wouldn't have been surprised me if he took the cheeky hair dryers at some point, and it's probably got a pretty darn good level advantage on me. But my saving grace was the character selection at that point was pretty bad, to say the least.
Story.
Well, of course, with that victory, it takes you up to 4-2 to finish the Swiss rounds, which does give you a entry into the brackets stage. So, first of all, congratulations for that. And second of all, have you taken a look at the flag set that's going to be used for the brackets, and how are you feeling about that?
I've taken a look at it. I'm excited. There's going to be a lot of interesting things. The biggest two I'm looking forward to is no dupes, and then SL0. SL0 is going to be a boon for me because it's going to be like, hey, look, I can't use this item. Cool, get rid of it. Instead of saying, hey, can I save this to sell for good money, which tends to be a problem of mine. And then the no dupes is going to make for some interesting situations, possibly going down that hook route. Because if you end up with all the dupes up on the overworld, you might end up with a hook route with only, say, Tella and Rydia, which is not fun.
Would a tournament role be cruel enough to give us a Tella and Rydia on a route hook route? I don't think such a thing exists. It's like a rodent of unusual size.
When I get into my first match, I'm going to come back to this one and point at it.
Look, you made me run that seed. You and I both know. And we both know exactly what we're both talking about.
Oh, yeah. That was a a classic Gauntlet seed.
It was a character builder.
Yes, it was. But yeah, this is my first time making it beyond the first phase of the tournament since Sensible Gauntlet. I made brackets in that tournament, so happy to come into Lali-Ho here and make brackets here, and hopefully can push farther this time than I did last time. But excited for the win. Sad I had to come in to Sorbius. Good runner, been doing great in this tournament. Again, really sad that one of us had to go home, but happy to pick up the win.
Yeah, no doubt. And hopefully you get a good draw to start off and get past the play-in round and don't end up paired up against 5 or 6 women the next time.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing to see is with the game in hand, if they have more wins. It's like I'd rather face a 4-4 person or someone from that play-in round than one of the 5-1s or even the single 6-0 that we're going to end up having. So.
But yes, that's for another day. In the meantime, enjoy your victory tonight and congratulations. And I look forward to seeing how well you do in the next phase.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Twisted Flax. Thank you, Fan Leonhardt, for doing comms. Leggy for doing the tracking. Harumph for your first restream, for your first restreamed seed that you rolled. This was a fun one. I look forward to seeing more of your restreams. I'll let you guys watch the rest of this race and see how Sorbius does for the Z fight.
Thank you very much. Again, that was Gambit, our winner tonight, going to 4-2 and going on to the brackets. Meanwhile, Sorbius had an issue with the first go round with the Z fight, which just shows, again, you're running with only really basically a 3-man party here. Can be a little difficult.
Yeah, he's forced to go reflect strats with this party. Not having that Cecil is definitely showing its issues here. You definitely don't want to have to go through all of the hit points, but at the same time, your options for reflecting are nukes from Fu, bites from Rosa, and the little-known Kane reflect strat. He's using the White Spear as an item. If this doesn't work, he might just have to break down and Zerk Kane and accept that he's going through the full fight.
This is definitely possible, though. I have seen it done with less, so it will not surprise me one bit if Sorbius can pull this off, because I know he's a good runner.
Oh, no doubt. He can definitely pull it. And the thing about reflect strats, since we've got a little bit of time to talk about it, is don't have Zerkers constantly putting actions in. That means you've got to be fast with your inputs. You're not slowing the Zeromus down with those automatic actions. He's going to get his big bangs out faster than he normally would. And if you do have people start to fall down and you go into recovery mode, you don't have a Zerker still chipping away at his hit point for the meantime.
It's also very important that you get these nerfs, big bangs out. Timing can be a little tricky at times, but it is important because you are throwing out so many other spells, and you want to make sure that you can keep all of your mages up and in fighting condition. And it looks like that's what Sorbius is trying to do with that direct crystal. Hopefully he gets the right timing to let everyone else survive.
Kane even gets Tella up to get an Ice 3 bounced. Better than a White Spear. The big hit coming in with this nuke. Was it nerfed? That's a nerf.
Yes, good news is what that was nerf. Bad news is, of course, it does take out the Rosa who did eat the counter nuke. Going to see if we can get everyone back up to snuff here. Again, the black hole is going to take out the wall, but Kane had already queued up another Star Veil. Goes off.
Sorbius anticipating the script like the good racer he is. Set to bring in another nuke. Hopefully can take Z down without having to nerf another big bang. Especially since it looks like he's out of life potions. Looking for something for Kane to do, says, I'll drink Cure 2s.
One of those situations where if you had a few Cure 3s, you might be able to just do self-reflect strats and just have Z take himself out with the reflected nukes from himself. I don't think he's got the curative items to pull that strategy off, unfortunately.
Went for a direct nuke, probably hoping that he had Zeromus weak enough that it would finish him off, similar to how Gambit's final Excalibur swing was enough. But didn't get the job done, so he's tipped Zeromus into phase 2 now and resets out.
That is unfortunate. He was so close to getting it done there.
Yeah.
And we are just getting word that Sorbius has decided to forfeit and not complete the Z fight.
Understandable.
I don't blame him one bit. He's already seen the finish from Gambit, so he knows that it's been the race is over, and doesn't want to put himself through that Z fight a third time. I don't blame him one bit.
And he's joining us here in the booth for an interview. Get your GGs out in chat. Sorbius,
Hello.
you ran ahead of a race.
Yeah, that was interesting. I don't think I ran that great of a race, but I'm not sure how Gambit routed it. But I definitely chose all of the wrong things to do in the wrong order.
I think if you watch this back, you'll see that Gambit made lots of the same decisions, and thanks to your early grind on the moon, which Gambit did not have access to, you were actually able to catch up to his routing and pass him for a little bit there, because you did have the extra power that he didn't. So I definitely think you had a good routing there.
Oh, I'll have to watch it back then.
Yeah, you had the lead on him early, and you cleared a lot more of the moon. Like, when you both left the moon at similar times, just with different pieces, all Gambit had done was the sealed cave when he bailed.
Wow. Okay.
As you know, that got him the Yogo, and he had to run up, and you had to run up when you were done. You cleared a lot more of the seed than Gambit did. He just managed to laser in on the part that got him a crystal.
Fair enough. I mean, you can't feel too bad about your opponent just sort of making the right choices, I guess.
I believe the phrase is "rando's going to rando." And
Yeah,
so sometimes it randos in your favor, and sometimes it.
Thinking this next Earth check has to have something. It can't all be on the moon. But turns out.
Yeah, Harumph led you both on a merry little chase there. Definitely.
It's only fair. I did knock him out of the tournament.
A little bit of revenge there, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah, looking back at the seed, you did start with the Rose and the Tell, which usually is a pretty good combination, but it did seem like you had a very difficult time finding other good characters outside of the Fu from the Hook route. Did that play into your routing or your thought process at any time?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to prioritize checks that gave characters just to try to find anybody. I mean, ideally a Cecil, from that Excal from the top of Ordeals. So I did Dwarf Castle maybe earlier than I might have otherwise. Did Baron when I probably should have done something else first, just to try and find anyone to replace that second Tella.
Yeah, we saw you grab Porin, and it's like, when you're grabbing a Porin.
No. Although ironically, with the Z fight I ended up trying to do, second White Caster might have made that go a little bit smoother, but here we are.
Yes, with the characters available, I think you were kind of trying to do a reflex strat, but you almost pulled off there the second time. It was so close.
Yeah, the second I had at that time, if I had just nerfed with the crystal or something else instead of just casting a nuke, the Shay came out just so quick because it's the two characters, and I sort of just instinctively threw a nuke at Z, and I'm like, that's gonna tip. I know where I'm at. I know where my HP is. Like, And then it paused for a second. I was like, hey, maybe I didn't tip. And he shook again. I'm like, all right, I don't need to put everyone through another 10 to 15 minutes of Z fight.
I was hoping to get him weak enough to finish him off without direct nuke, but you apparently knew better.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is going to take you to 3-3, which is not going to be enough to make the brackets. But still, batting 500 in a very, very stacked tournament, I think is a very credible performance. Do you have any reflection on how you felt you did this tournament?
Oh, I am thrilled with how I did this tournament. This is my first time playing Free Enterprise competitively, and my first time playing at 1v1 at all. And I was expecting to go 0-3 or 1-3 or something like that. So to end up 3-3, I'm very proud of myself for that. And I have a lot of friends who are moving on to brackets, so I get to still play bracket seeds with them for practice. Plus, there's the ladder with bracket flags if I want to keep playing those too. So certainly still get to have the bracket experience even if I'm not in the tournament anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to playing on the ladder as well.
Any other final thoughts before we send everyone on their way?
As usual, thank you to everyone for putting this on. It's a blast. I'm looking forward already to the next big tournament. And thanks everyone in chat for watching, and Scala for everything that she does, and just everyone for being incredible.
And thanks again for putting on a very, very entertaining and very close.
I do what I can.
Well, Commander, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. I just want to throw out one last shout out to the people behind the scenes. Harumph for doing the restream, doing a great job with it after a couple of early hiccups, and Lady Starscream doing a great job with the tracking.
Yeah, and this match is over, but we are not done with Free Enterprise for the night. We are sending you over to Usually Clueless, who is running some Free Enterprise. They've been around for a while, but are only just now starting to run Free Enterprise, so please give all of the wonderful encouragement this community is known for, and do not spoil the results of this race. You could say it was a great must-see race, but no details. We'll get the bonk. And I will echo what Sorbius and Gambit both said. Great team to work with. Biggie, Rumpf, Twisted Flax. Pleasure. Hope to do it again soon sometime.
Me too. And everyone out there, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.